Hi, this is the Chapter 10 assignment overview. Okay, let's start with the objective. We're going to be looking at assessment data again on this one. This chapter is about classroom management, which is probably one of my favorite things to talk about, and it's also one of the most important aspects of teaching. If we look at reasons that people leave the teaching profession, one of the number one reasons is classroom management issues. This is really important. It's something that can really make or break a teacher. And obviously, if you don't have a safe and secure environment, we can't have student learning. Something we really want to pay a lot of attention to. In this assignment, you're going to look at some different behavioral strategies, and I'd like you to think about a particular student as you work through this. So as you read the chapter, think of some of the students that you have. Think about somebody that you might want to focus on. I like to emphasize that you're not just looking for somebody who is misbehaving, somebody who's aggressive or acting out or talking all the time. It could be somebody that's really shy and withdrawn and that you're having a hard time getting to come in and do stuff and participate with the class. Those students have behavioral issues as well, students with anxiety. Sometimes there are behavior issues that they're below the radar. We don't pay as much attention to them. We're paying more attention to the kid that's bouncing off the walls and screaming out profanity because obviously squeaky wheel and all that. So think about all your kids, and you might end up with somebody who's hyperactive or has some of those more noticeable issues, and that's fine. Those are the ones that you probably want to get calmed down. So you might want to focus on them. You might have somebody with anxiety or a related issue, and you want to focus on that student. So as you're reading through, think of your students. You're going to look at the figure 10.3 and think of that student and find the category that really fits your student's characteristics. And then as you look across the table, you'll find some suggestions in there. So look through, think of a student, find a suggestion, something that you're not doing right now, and keep that in mind. That's what you're going to use for this project. So first of all, once you have your kid picked out, you kind of know what you're going to do, but before you implement the suggestion, your intervention, you need to get some baseline data. You need to find out, okay, what's going on right now, because otherwise you can't tell if you're making an impact or not. So pick a specific behavior that student is engaging in. So I give the example here of somebody who's inattentive. So if you have a student that's really not paying attention in class and you're thinking, okay, that's what I want to target, then you need to look at time on task. That's the behavior you're looking for. It's usually better if you can frame this positively. Instead of saying time off task, you want to look at time on task. And there's some reasoning behind that. Some of it's with expectations and different things, but anytime we focus on a positive aspect of the behavior, that's always better. So if they're doing something that's driving you nuts, what's the opposite of that? And focus on that. So pick one behavior. You don't want too many. If you have somebody who is maybe struggles with ADHD and they don't pay attention and they don't turn their work on and they're running around and they're out of place and they're doing all this huge list of things, you can't fix all of that at once. So you pick one and pick the thing that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. So if you have somebody who they're never paying attention and that's what you're noticing the most, then that's the behavior you target. Don't worry about the other stuff yet. Just pick one thing at a time. Okay, so you pick your student, you've got your target behavior. Now you need to get some baseline data. So figure out how are you going to measure that behavior. I'll use the time on task again. Maybe you're going to do a tally sheet. Now, you don't want to measure all day because you have to teach. You're not going to have time. So pick maybe 1 minute, and you're going to do this 1 minute tally sheet, and you're going to do this every hour. And so you pick 1 minute, and you just tally how often the student's on task. Another option that you can do is through the course of a day, you can set a timer in your pocket or on a phone or something to go off every 45 minutes, for instance. And then when the timer goes off, look at the student. Are they on task? If they are, make a tally mark. If they're not, they're not. And you just do that throughout the day. So you don't have to constantly sit and watch the student, and you don't want to constantly sit and watch the student, but find some way to just take a sample to find out how often are they engaging in that behavior. So let's say that you do that and you find out they're on task about 3 out of 10 times, okay, and that's your baseline data. Now do your intervention. Do the suggestion that you found on the table 10.3. So you want to do that for at least 1 week. I really wish we had more time, and if there's any way when you're working on your timeline or you're doing this that you can get more time to do this, that would be awesome. Because really, if you're looking at behavioral changes, you need to do something for at least 4 weeks. 6 weeks is even better before you really start seeing a lot of change. But we have limitations for time, and we have a lot of other things we need to do in this course, so I know you're not going to, most likely not going to have a full 4 weeks to do stuff, so that's okay. But do it at least for a week. So at least for 1 week, do that. If you would like, you can continue to take your measurements during that week, but I'm not going to require it. It's because you have so much going on right now, it's okay if you just do it once before implementing and once after. But again, you probably get even more data. It's nice to kind of see a pattern. If you are able to do it throughout the week, that's great. But I'm not requiring it. So get the longest time frame you can, at least 1 week, as many weeks as possible, and do your pre-measure, implement, and then after the implementation period, measure it again. Use the same measure. That's very important. So if you did tally sheets and you did a mark every 45 minutes, do that same exact procedure the second time. You want it to be exactly the same. And then interpret the results. You may not see a change. Actually, it's kind of more likely that you'll see a negative change. A lot of times if a student's having a behavior issue and we implement some sort of intervention, a lot of times the behavior gets worse before it gets better. So it's possible if you only do this for a week that you'll see either no change at all or they might actually get worse. But don't lose heart. Keep doing it, and probably it'll come back around. But just be aware of that. I'm going to go down to the rubric here. You're going to have a discussion on why you chose the particular behavior intervention that you did. So clear statement, discuss clearly why did you choose that. So give me some choice there. Methodology. Now, you're only going to have one student involved here. So when we look at the student, you're going to tell me how you carried out the activity, the target behavior. So what do you want them to do? A little bit about the student background. Again, we have to have anonymity, but you can tell me it's a 4th grade student, it's a boy, he has an IEP, a behavior plan, whatever. Just give me some information. The student has had 4 referrals in the space of a month. I don't know. Whatever is important, whatever is relevant to the behavior of the student, give me that information. Tell me the type of measure. Are you doing a tally sheet? Are you doing observations? A lot of different behavioral tools out there. You'll find some resource ideas on Blackboard. You can go on there and get some other ideas for how to measure the student behavior. So tell me what you're doing and tell me the timeline. So were you able to do it for 2 weeks? Were you not able to do it? Give me some ideas there. And then, of course, state the limitations of methodology. There are definite limitations here. And so just explain those. Tell me what happened. And then interpretation of results. So I'd like to have the raw scores here as well. So if you just did the pre and the post, that's fine. If you're able to do some measurement along the way, that's fantastic. But make sure it's something that's very clear. You might just have 2 scores. That's okay. But make sure that they're clearly stated there. And then a summary and discussion of results. What did you find out here? Did the behavior get worse? Why? What do you think happened? So give me some opinion here too in your discussion. Is it something, yeah, the behavior got worse, but I think I want to try it a little longer and see what happened, or no, I saw an immediate benefit, whatever you saw. So a nice summary and discussion, and then your formatting and grammar. So you will probably just have one source here because you're just going to have the textbook, I'm guessing, unless you did some additional research. If you did pull a measurement tool, a specific tool from a website or a book, you would want to cite that. But if it's just an idea that you got, such as a tally sheet or something like that, you don't necessarily have to cite that because that's a pretty standardized tool. But if it's something specific that you used, you do want to give that citation. But otherwise, you'll just have the Marzano book. Any questions as you go, please let me know.